You better not be wasting my time. You got money?
All right, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Price Check number 33. I miscounted the last one, so if you're paying attention to these intros, please don't be alarmed. We haven't skipped a number. I'm just bad at counting. We're going to go ahead and get started here right off the bat. For those of you just joining, perhaps on this episode, I would like to give a brief description of what it is we do here. We're going to be pulling out a tab full of unpriced gear, going through it, assigning prices to everything, or vendoring it if it's trash, and I'll be giving my thoughts and criticisms behind all of these items. The goal here is that if you're relatively new to the game, you can maybe learn a thing or two from my pricing habits, and if you are fairly experienced in the game, you can maybe teach me a thing or two in the comments below. Feel free to leave your comments, by the way, if you see anything that I'm pricing that you disagree with. It is, of course, a fairly subjective thing. Alright, well, we've got Energy Shield, a Resistance roll, and Mana, but none of them are very impressive at all. So that's just going to go to the vendor. No life. Unimpressive resistances, a decent fire damage to attacks roll. I think that's comparing it against the wrong tiers at the moment. Is not enough to save that. We've got missing life, decent amount of resists, but yeah, no life roll. A lot of resistances, usually not what you're looking for in a jewel, but can be nice if the jewel is otherwise quite good. So like if this jewel had, say, life crit multi in that collection of resists, it'd be worth selling, but attack speed and mana leech doesn't go quite as well. No life, pretty garbage resists. Again, a decent fire damage to attacks roll, but nothing amazing. We've got accuracy, strength, life. The life is being augmented by that strength, since strength does convert into life at a 50% ratio, so it's actually 26 life as well as the 52 strength, which is 81 life overall. A resistance implicit, a bit of percent cold damage, which could be relevant. This isn't a horrible ring. Earlier in the league, this definitely would have sold. At this point, it may for a few chaos. And we'll go ahead and list it. 78 life, a chaos res base, which could be nice for the right build if somebody wants to take on Kayula, and some resistances. Yeah, again, something that could definitely have sold earlier on in the league pretty reliably. At this point, maybe not, but we'll list it anyways. Life, mana, res, pretty unimpressive on all of the rolls. Got block chance applied to spells. I think that's a pretty good ES roll. Tier 3. And endurance, frenzy, and power charge gen when you block, which is a very nice mod. However, the block chance on this shield is 22%, which doesn't help it. Fossilized is a very good base for its spell damage implicit, but the ES is not particularly high as compared to like a titanium, and it doesn't have a percent ES roll. So I think this is just vendor food. Though, I mean, I guess we could throw a percent ES roll on this if it's got an open prefix, right? Yeah, it does. So we can see how much ES this can actually get to, since percent ES rolls only cost transmutes, so they're basically not money. Nothing interesting there. Got 20 life, not too great. Physical as extra lightning is a decent start, I suppose, but the rest of this is just junk, and it's not a dagger, so probably not going to be used in most spellcasting builds, since you usually want a melee weapon to be able to shield charge or whirling blades with, and usually that's going to be a dagger. Some life, some stats, but really low in the resists without any damage rolls. Again, some fairly mediocre rolls. Just nothing at all. This is an example of an absolutely horrendous ring. These are the rolls you are not looking for. I mean, the ES is sort of okay, and percent lightning damage is okay as well, but 1 to 2 flat fire is incredibly low. Flat life regen is very, very bad. 33 int is not very high. It's just overall not a great ring. Yeah. There's learning opportunities in the failures as much as the successes. 8% increased life, some percent dex, but nothing else too useful. Some high armor if you've blocked recently. I don't see that being all that great. Yeah, and a little bit of all res and a little bit of life. Nothing too impressive. We've got physical damage to spells, movement speed if you haven't taken damage recently. Neither of which catches my attention. I think that phys damage to spells roll is pretty high, though. Yeah, it's tier 2. Maybe with some other good stuff it could have been salvaged. Got no life, no resists. Same here. 31 life. There's no flat evasion on this, so it's not hybrid life evasion, so we can't craft flat life onto it. Chance to bleed is not very useful. I'm gonna get rid of that. No life, no resists. 47 life, a little bit of chaos res, a little bit of accuracy, some lightning damage to attacks. Again, maybe someone who specifically wants that, I think T1 chaos res roll. Yeah. would be willing to get this just for running Kyulas, and it does have accuracy and lightning damage to attacks, which is rather nice. Usually you go for a breach ring if you want a ring specifically for running Kyula breach stones, though, because then all of your stats are doubled on that ring. Like, we'll put this up for 4 chaos for a day or so, but I doubt it'll sell. Maybe 4 or 5, something like that. How high is that lightning damage roll? Tier 5. Yeah, not very good. Some multi, crit chance, and a res. Crit chance is not as highly valued as multi. It's only the one multi roll. Doesn't have attack speed, doesn't have life. Doesn't have a generic damage mod either, like area damage or fist damage with one-handers. So I think that's just vendor food. Close-ish to not being, though. 56 life is very bad in the chess piece. 2 good stats. No life, though. Mana won't save it. Again, 2 good stats. Plus 1 ES and no life. Goodbye. And we get 2 more prismatic rings to look at. And they're both junk. Okay. Go ahead and put these away. Why did I not vendor this? I guess I just missed it. What about this one? Yeah, I guess I just missed both of those. Sloppy work today, Oct. Missed these ones too, they're both junk. God dang. Alright, so let's see how high of an ES value we can actually get onto this shield. We can throw up to 74% increased ES. We got 215 ES. We've got 40% of block chains applied to spells and endurance power and frenzy charge gen. You know, it doesn't actually sound half bad. And the fossilized implicit gives us some spell damage. Let's just throw all these up for 5C. Now let's transition over to the browser window, because we're going to go ahead and search this shield. So, shield. Energy shield total, let's do a minimum of 185. We don't have any resists, but we do have those interesting shaper mods. So, block chance applied to spells. Let's do 35 as our minimum, I suppose. I think that's the lowest roll it has anyways. This isn't a particularly high roll on that. Endurance. Not on kill when you block. There. And let's just see what we come up with. One result, we're looking at 5x. 199.19 ES. How much did we have again? 215. That's without quality. We can go ahead and quality this. See how much we actually get. 229 ES overall. This does have more spell damage than ours, as well as crit chance for spells, so this is overall a far better shield. It's also got, I guess, 1% more block chance applied to spells. That's not particularly relevant. Let's check offline as well. Like, I don't think the shield that we have is a 5x shield. 40C, I mean, there's not very many shields like it seems. It's not exactly an ES meta, so I wouldn't expect this to be a quick sell. Let's lower some of these requirements a bit. We can bring this down to like 150, let's say. Okay. 183, so actually pretty significantly less the ES than ours, but it does have a resist. And it's got both of our rolls. As well as... No, that's about it. A little bit higher in the block chance applied to spells. A worse implicit for 10C. And then it goes to 30, 40, 1x, 3x. Prices jump pretty quickly on this. It doesn't seem like a lot of people maybe know what the worth is. I mean, we could see the value of these two mods. So we could just do like count 1. And see what we'll bring the ES back up, because I imagine we'll get a lot more results this way. 137 results, and now we're looking at like 1 alk or 2C. So this is just the endurance path. This is just the charge gen. It's on a fossilized spirit shield, has a little bit of life, but it's got very similar ES to ours, actually more. So you factor in that block chance, and yeah, it kind of makes sense that it'll jump up to like a 1x shield. So I think we can put this up for an exalt. I really didn't think it had this much value, but you know, pleasant surprise. I'm glad I looked into it further. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if this just doesn't really sell, though, let alone sell quickly, because it's selling to a market that isn't particularly robust at the moment. Just ES builds in general, and particularly ES builds that are going to be looking for a very specific shield with a very specific combination of mods. But hey, if the man comes along who wants to buy this, they can do so for the low, low price of 1 exalt. considering that the playing field was pretty much level at that point. There were some that were kind of really overpriced at like 5 or 6x that have been up for a month, but this one up for 1x probably will sell to the right niche buyer. Alright, let's keep going. I'm glad this episode is already shaping up to be a little bit more interesting than the last in terms of our returns. One thing that I wanted to do that's been suggested is keep track of the more valuable items, so the things that I don't list at like 5 or 6C, but instead the things that I list at like, you know, 50, 60 plus chaos, and just keep a log of those and let you guys know when they sell and if they sell and how much I had to lower the price, if at all, before they sold. So I may end up doing that. It's just a little bit tough to keep track of every single object, every single item that gets priced, but I'll do my best. I'll start up a little Google Doc and maybe we can do that. We got movement speed, no life though, unaffected by desecrated ground. Nice utility, but not going to save a pair of boots. 22 life, 12 life, no explicit life. Some LE damage to mace attacks. Damage if you haven't taken, or movement speed if you haven't taken damage yet. These rolls are not particularly high, so. And mace attack builds are not particularly popular, says the man holding a frost breath, but, you know. There's an exception to every roll. Cast speed, minion stuff. Well, that physical is actually really high, isn't it? That physical is really high, and cast speed is rather nice in a minion build. Yeah, that is the top end of tier 2. It's as good as tier 2 gets. Doesn't have life. The cold damage roll is really junk, but we'll look it up and see if it's worth anything. The flat added to minions... I was about to say minion attacks, but it's not actually specific attacks. If you look at the syntax, it's just minions deal flat, additional, physical, or cold, or whatever. So that applies to minion spells as well, which is actually really important, because a lot of Spectre builds rely on the spells that their minions cast to do good damage. So that flat added fizz is incredibly valuable for a build that's going to maybe use like some sort of Spectre that has a physical-based spell that maybe they're going to use like Hatred or something to augment, or some form of conversion or something like that, if you could work that in. What is it? Sandworn Slaves, the big Dark Souls-looking enemies inside of cages that fire off lots and lots of tornadoes. Those do physical damage and are
at last.
Well, thank you for the follow. Those do physical damage and are a fairly popular Spectre build at the moment. Fairly popular, you know, sort of niche. I've seen 3 or 4 people playing it. It's out there. It's in the ether of builds. All of this is just junk. A little bit of crit multi, but nothing else really interesting. Level 20 poison, no life, no resists. Nothing great going on. Plus, oh, you do know the way to a man's heart, Blood Sanctuary. Plus 3 armor, plus 7 evasion rating. 5% max life ain't gonna fix you. Minion damage, int, life. It's actually not bad. Open suffix, please? Yeah, okay, we can craft a res on that. It's not a bad helmet. We'll have to see whether or not it's worth more than the base, though, because Royal Bergenet is quite a nice base. It's eye level 82, and it's Elder Touched. No life. A little bit of accuracy. Bad, yes. No life. Some horrible wed. Dang. That's a really good fire damage roll, isn't it? Again, towards the top end of a tier 2. We've got life and reduction against abyssal monsters is a nice utility stat, I suppose. Life res. Life, a bunch of junk. Some fire damage to dagger attacks, not particularly relevant. And junk. Alright, well. Got a few more interesting bits and pieces here. That's not a bad shield. That's not a shield. That's not a bad ring, is what I meant to say. Life, strength, and fire to attacks, and lots of resistances, helped along by the implicit. Okay, cool. I think that's the first good prismatic ring that I've seen in all of these episodes. We get like 3 or 4 an episode, and usually they're just garbage. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and craft a res on this helmet to start off with. It's not really particularly important which one, so we'll just go ahead and throw lightning res at it. Hey, we got a good roll. And let's see how much that base is worth to begin with. So it's a Royal Bergenet that is Elder Touched and item level 82. Search that up. So that's a 25 to 30 chaos base. Like, that's going to be kind of hard to beat out with the rolls. It goes up to 40 pretty quickly, so it's actually probably more like a 35 to 40 C base. Because this one's corrupted, so that's not an accurate price. This one's not even up for an hour. So yeah. Let's go ahead and check it by into the rolls now, but I actually do pretty sincerely doubt that what we have is going to be worth more than that. Maybe it is. Some nice utility, a little bit of life and res. Life, say, 60. Probably should have checked this before crafting the res on it. I don't know, it's just an alk or two, it's no big deal. Minion damage. And what was the last roll? Got actually a pretty high int roll in one res. What we can do is we can look for int, strength, or dex. We're going to want a new filter group. Well, if we look for strength, we might find ones with like life rolls that are not really comparable to ours. 40 or higher on both of these. We can count 1. And then resistance, pseudo total elemental, pseudo number of elemental resistances, max 1. So this is a fairly specific search at this point. Wouldn't be surprised if we don't turn up too many results. We may need to widen this a bit. 6 results. 65, 90. How similar is the stars? This is a much higher life roll. This has crafted life. This is really similar to ours, actually. It's got the same type of resist, even around the same area, lightning res. This does have 2 supports for the helmet, though, so it's a 6 link, not like a 5 link. And it's got % minion life. It has been up for a while at 90 chaos, but this is still better than our helmet. It's better than our helmet. It's got life and even mana for mind over matter. That's higher life roll, yeah. So, I think we can list this a little bit over the value of the base, put it up for like 50C, because the base was worth about 35 to 40, and then we'll probably just lower it to the value of the base if it doesn't sell. Seems reasonable to me. And this ring, just a rather nice ring. I don't think I need to do a super in-depth price check on this, because it's basically just some life, a damage roll, and a lot of resists. We can just kind of throw this up for, say, 30C. Would be my estimate. That's what I'd expect to pay for something that looks like that at this point in the league. Life, flat fire, and the fizz reduction. Just throw this up for 5. And let's keep on going. Oh right, we were going to check this minion jewel. So, we had a life roll on that, right? No, we didn't. Okay, so that's why I didn't think it is going to have that much value. I wanted to see the value of just a really high minions deal additional fizz. Additional physical. What's our average? 14 to 18 is 20 plus 12, 32, 16 average. So we're going to put in like 15 as our average physical. And then, honestly, add filter group, life, plus to maximum life. I don't use this filter that often, but it's pretty useful. Where is that? Okay, that's not percent, that's percent. We're going to not maximum life, so we want a ring with additional physical damage and no life on it, and a good additional physical damage roll and no life. Not a ring, a jewel. 1,500 results. Alright, we're going to need to narrow this a bit more. Add filter group. Cast speed, I suppose. I think there's a few other cast speed rolls that jewels can roll. So this one's better than just raw cast speed. If you've dealt a crit. We're just going to count one of these as well. Now this is less to find an accurate price for this jewel, because at this point I pretty much feel like this jewel is not actually worth very much and I'm not going to end up listing it. And more just to sort of plumb PoE trade for a bit of information. We've narrowed it down a good amount. So this one's very similar to ours, but it's got that flat chaos, and it's only up for a chisel. So the flat fizz by itself is not going to carry a jewel. You're going to need to have a bit more value than that. And even something like a bit of cast speed doesn't carry it as well. So it seems like a life roll is like super important. So this is just going to go to the vendor. The not filter can be really, really useful for gathering information like that. And I would suggest using it when you have an item that you know with one additional roll would be way more valuable than it is, and you want to see what the value or what the lost value of losing that roll is. Usually that's a life roll. Usually when I'm using the not filter, it's to exclude items with life on them. But occasionally it's to exclude something with like crit chance or something. Some of the more important rolls that are like item defining. Not very good as an offhand, not very good as a main hand, not very good in general. Life and resists are missing. We've got some flat lightning, some life, some resists, some damage against abyssal monsters. That's not a horrible jewel. That's not hybrid life, so we can't craft more life onto this thing. So I think because of that, that's just vendor food. We've got pretty much nothing on that. Some flat lightning to bow text that I think is pretty good. Yeah, tier 2. Onslaught for 4 seconds on kill. Some flat evasion. Don't really think that's worth anything. Flat evasion is arguably good for Queen of the Forest, but you're going to be hitting Queen of the Forest movement speed cap without getting flat evasion on your jewels, I think, most of the time, in most Queen of the Forest builds, especially with flasks up. So I don't think it's particularly useful now that you can't infinitely scale. Most of these just don't have any life on them, so that one's only got 51 and no good resists. That one's just junk. This one could have sold early in the league. At this point, it's a little bit too lackluster. Missing a life roll. Would have been nice to have one, actually. It's not a horrible item otherwise. Oh god, that is a pretty horrible item. Oh, that's unfortunate. Spells have +1 base crit chance is really nice. On a good helmet, that's worth quite a bit. This is not a good helmet, though. Not a good helmet at all. That thing is a piece of junk. Okay, well. Not a great ending to the episode, but a pretty good beginning and middle. We can just go ahead and put this bad boy up for like 8C to start. I doubt it'll sell at that point, but we'll lower it over the next few days. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. My name's been Octavian, and will likely continue to be that. I'll keep you guys updated. If anyone is interested in me like starting a spreadsheet with just like the higher value items to keep track of things like that, then please do let me know in the comments below. I've gotten that suggestion once or twice, but I'm just interested to see how many people in the audience would really like to see that. It would be a good amount of effort on my part, so I don't really want to do it if it's just like one guy who's going to be paying any attention to it. But you know, if there's demand, I'll be happy to fulfill. But yeah, thank you for watching. You can always subscribe here in the YouTube channel to keep up with this series and the other content that I put out, and you can also always follow me on my Twitch channel to catch my daily live streams. I'll see you in the next one, everybody.